good. Beautiful. All right. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for coming along to this afternoon's meeting. For those who don't know me, my name is Jackie, and I'm the Victorian representative for MAANZ. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands across Australia and Aotearoa, New Zealand, and pay our respects to elders past and present. We honour the enduring cultural practices of making, storytelling, and creativity that have flourished here for countless generations. These lands are home to some of the world's oldest continuing art traditions, and we recognise the deep knowledge and care held by First Nations artists, makers, and communities. So, with the international exhibition coming up in Brisbane this October, we wanted to take this opportunity to workshop the exhibition theme, Fragments and Flow, and provide a chance to explore both the theme and the exhibition process. We will also have an opportunity at the end of the session for anybody to ask questions if you'd like to. I'd like to now introduce Barb Erlenbrook, who's the MAANZ National Exhibition Coordinator, and Barb has been a mosaic artist for 20 years, and she's going to guide us through the exhibition theme. So I'll hand over to you, Barb.
Thank you. So I'm going to share screen. Trying to find my okay. Allow. Okay, are we seeing that?
Yep.
Super. So Fragments and Flow, great theme for our symposium, beautifully broad. Every mosaic can be response to this theme. So, but you might want to explore it more deeply, and I'm going to do them separately and then together, fragments and then flow, and then fragments and flow. And I've got a lot of visuals. I went mining the previous MAANZ exhibition library and found lots of really great mosaics in our online 2021 exhibition. And it's been such a long time since we've all seen those mosaics, and there's probably a few members since then. And there were a lot of really strong works in that exhibition. It was a really emotive time. We just had bushfires in Australia. It was COVID. It was an online exhibition, so we had a few international entries as well. So I've chosen quite a few from that exhibition, and then I've chosen some just from online and Instagram and just around the place. So thanks for tuning in, and let's dive in. So firstly, I'm going to talk about this work, which is really exploring fragmentation as a process. And Heather Volans from Canada made this work, and she's done quite an extensive series exploring pebbles. And it's a lovely example of just, exploring fragmenting one material and how interesting that can be. And you can see the lines that she's made. She's got the cut surface facing us in some and the uncut in others. And she's arranged them really carefully in terms of size, so she doesn't have to cut them across ways. And all the lines are leading to this, this lovely empty space here. So that's one example of fragmenting a single material, which is, an easy way to explore the theme. I was thinking about fragments. The fragments themselves are sometimes the storytellers, and this is an example of that. Sorry, I've just lost my... this is by Melanie Berry from the US, called Sleep on It, and it's all ceramics. And the story centers around this central image there in the middle of the lady. Beginning, I'm just going to read. I'll tell you all, I have included a lot of artist statements here, and you can go back and look at them later. It can be good to see how other artists write their artist statement. In this statement, it really does give a lot of additional understanding and layer of meaning to the work. So it starts around this central ceramic fragment, beginning with a fragment from a Charles Gibson drawing captioned, "She decides to die in spite of Dr. Bottles. I imagined a widow's thoughts as she considers her untethered position in Victorian society. Freed from context, the black and white lines of her deathbed extend into a quilt-like pattern of insects and swirling dishes, connecting the bondages of domesticity with her dreams of metamorphosis." So it's a really visually interesting mosaic, and then has a lot of additional meaning to it, all from those fragments of ceramic plates. This is Kelly Knickerbocker's work, quite recognisably hers. She was one of the jurors from the International Exhibition in 2021, and her work is quite known for defacing ceramics. But she's then gone a step further and arranged those pieces beautifully, and then with ink has gone on top and then reconnected all the pieces with little lines that she's drawn on top. So it was a fascinating mosaic that really took that fragmentation and then rejoined it back together. So it's really Fragments and Flow. This is Julie Sperling's work from Canada. She was also one of the jurors. Julie's work is very well known for exploring the impact of man on the environment, and their work is often visually very compelling, but when you know more and go looking more closely, it's often quite disturbing. Her artist statement's terrific. Evidence abounds that we are now living squarely in the Anthropocene, the geological age where human activity is the dominant influence on the environment. One such piece of evidence is this: human-made materials such as concrete, metal, plastic now outweigh all living biomass on Earth. And so she's used collected found things, plastic, and then placed them thoughtfully amongst a few pieces of organic material, some shells, some coral, possibly some bone, I'm not sure. So it's visually very striking and interesting, and has another layer. The fragments themselves are telling us another story altogether. And then we've got fragmenting as a concept that could be explored. And this is from the 2021 International. Desley Hancock from New South Wales, "Loss is Ragged." And as you look at this mosaic, I'll read her statement, just sort of visualize as you're moving from left to right. "Experience of close fires in January 2020 drove deeper the need in me to explore the issues of climate change in my art. The loss came crashing in, visits to a silent forest where the earth's bones were laying bare, her skin melted, so many animals gone. I wanted to make a work that showed the ragged loss and the relentless fraying. This work has been made by using symbolic elements, bones of earth, shed skin of granite from burnt boulders, substrate of bark shapes. The making unsettled me. I wanted to fill the canvas and make it beautiful again." So not only is it's a very poetic artist statement, and she's talking about the fragments themselves and the story that they tell, and then this kind of fraying, which is the fragmentation that I was kind of responding to when I looked at the image. It's a really very deep work. This is a work by Clement Mitterrand. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly, from France. If you don't know his work, check it out. It's pretty wild. He is a mosaic artist who has combined photography with mosaic. Somehow, I don't know what the process is, he can put photographic images on his tesserae and then arranges them, in this very meaningful way. So many layers to this, but it was perfect for the theme. It's called Narcissus. So it's probably easier seen from a distance, but this is the artist himself taking a selfie on his phone, and then his finger here is touching the image and it's shattering, echoing that story of Narcissus. So it's a pretty spectacular work. His work's all really amazing. This is a work by Philippe Bonzat, who I met in Turkey at the symposium. The theme there was Path of Freedom, and this is Icarus, and there's a labyrinth in there, but there is this image of a face. I've put this smaller image there so it's easy to see. It's a child's face taken from an old black and white photo. And he's fragmenting it, and the fragments are all different sizes, and then embedding them into Hessian. And there are two layers to this mosaic. There's the labyrinth, and then beneath those pieces is mirror, which reflects the image that's on the lower surface. So when you stand at an angle, you get a different view of a different image. So it was a big experiment for him, but I think he pulled it off. But it's a great fragmentation of image. And then we have flow. So many things to explore. The magic of mosaic: flow of form, especially sculptural form, flow of color, flow of tone, flow of directional placement. And I really couldn't talk about flow and Andamento without the queen of Andamento herself, Caitlin's beautiful work. This is Insieme. The form here just flows, the lines flow, the color flows, everything about it is flowing and beautiful. Just a close-up. Beautiful flows of gradient, just a beautiful flowing form. This is another work from the 2021 International, Barbara Dabala from the US. And we've got flow of the form around this tree trunk, got flow of directional placement. And the work itself is talking about the flow of time. Time moves, yet stands still. Time has passed, yet it is our future. In a blink of an eye, be aware, one may miss time flying by. And this is Michelena Bamford. It says from Australia here because she was stranded in Australia at the time, but she's in Canada. She has a foot, and this work is actually about having a foot in both countries. But again, it's a lovely flowing form with flowing tessera, flowing lines that are then echoed in these flows of locks of hair coming from the substrate itself. A lovely example of flow, I thought. So we've talked about flow of time. This was another example of that. This is Pip Enever's work from New South Wales, Bushfire Metamorphosis, exquisite. So there's a flow of time, there's a flow of a colour change, and again, fragments telling the story. So there are fragments of scribbly gum here. And the artist statement: just months after the wildfire, with almost supernatural ability, life burst through burnt bark, grass trees sprang to life, and seeds cracked open by the heat led to a vivid undergrowth. There's more there, but that's another example of flow. Fragments and flow. And then you could explore the flow state itself, the flow state that a lot of us do mosaic because of this flow state that we get in when we're breaking and making. And this is Annabella Weber's work from the 2021 International. She also was one of the jurors and judges. And this is called MMXX, which is the Roman numerals for 2020. And Annabella's another queen of Andamento's beautiful flow in her lines. I'm going to move to the next slide, which I'll come back to these. shows the work front on, and you can't actually see those little coloured pockets. The artist statement is on the previous slide, but this quote is a great quote that talks about the flow of the work from an article that she wrote about it. I used every variation of undamento I could think of to speak for this crazy year. I needed to speak with some slang, some formal prose, some screaming, and some whispers, and the occasional or perhaps frequent frustrated swear, punctuated by the occasional nothing. The work became a sort of ode to undamento as I got lost in the process, exactly where I loved to be. And then those little pockets there of colour refer to the good things that were happening. Babies were born, weddings went on, we found moments of joy and personal achievement, and we got things done. So the flow state being expressed and what's happening for the artist coming out in the work as she's making. And then we have fragments and flow and the lovely tension between the two. And this is an image I grabbed off Instagram. I did ask the artist if I could use it because it's actually a detail of a larger work. This is Adelaide Roche from Russia, and it's a detail of her work translated as the title, and the birds of chance flocked to her shoulders. So she's written, mosaic as a metaphor for falling in love, which arises through a series of chance events that burst into our lives and upend everything, which is said with tessera and flow. And then this, so here they are just ticking along in rhythm. And then there's this abrupt change in size of fragment, direction, color, the way they're all placed, that just draws your eye straight into what's happening here. It's just exquisite. And this is a 30-30 work from the 2021 online exhibition, Natalie Anderson, Australia, Going with the Flow. And I put this in because I'm just drawing attention to these large fragments that are almost superimposed on this background of flow. And the artist has done that, I think, very deliberately and refers to in her artist statement, these explorations were reflecting the feelings of floating and flailing that I was personally and professionally experiencing. And she's visually captured that so beautifully by having these fragments sitting there amongst the flow. So they look like they're floating. It's fabulous. And this is Sharon Pine's work from New Zealand from the 30-30 in 2021, Lockdown Lava. And, you know, it's a simple design, but it's really very captivating because there's this lovely contrast between the flow of vivid, saturated reds and then sitting right next to these larger, flatter, dull, more haphazardly arranged slate pieces. It makes it really visually compelling. And you're probably all familiar with Rachel Davies. She's going to be one of our speakers at the one of our workshop presenters at the symposium. She's quite known for her work with slate, and she's really cleverly used this tension where the flowing of the lines of slate where they're laid on their side collide with the slate laid flat in larger pieces like that. And then centrally, the coloured smalty arranged differently again. And that all helps to draw our eye and keep it here in the centre of interest. And I couldn't talk about the tension between fragments and flow without putting one of Toya Haruki's works up. He's got to be the master of this. And I'll show you a detailed work there. But you have these flowing, very regular lines and then abrupt changes and even, change in the level of the work, the way that the tesserae have been laid, the colours of the smalty there. which all make a highly visually compelling and interesting work. So they're all visuals. Just a quick couple of words about artist statements. So especially for the international, because your work is judged on concept, your artist statement's really important. It's the bridge between your art and your audience, and it's written in the first person. So in my work, I explore, or, my process is, or I have done this because, and consider talking about three things, depending on what you want to focus on in your statement. But the what, so the materials, the subject, the how, which is your process, and really importantly, the why. So your concept, your theme, your inspiration, your direction. And keep in mind that the jurors will be looking at upwards of 80 artist statements when they're curating the show. And so, you want it to be interesting and engaging. It's quite a good idea when you write your artist statement to read it out loud and see how it sounds and flows, or read it to someone. So yeah, the artist statement's super important, as are your photos, which we've talked about before. So I'm going to open it up in a minute, but just to reinforce the 30-30, open to MAANZ and non-MAANZ members, 30 by 30 centimetres, D-rings 10 centimetres down, 5 centimetres in. If you've already put them in and they're not exactly that, don't stress. It just makes it easier for us to hang the exhibition uniformly, and that placement of rings helps to have the work sit flat against the wall, especially if we're using gallery wire hanging systems. Entries are open now and close 15th of July. You can put in 2 entries, and all works need to be for sale. The international is juried, it's MAANZ members only, a single work, 2D or sculptural. You can have it for sale, but you don't have to sell it. So that's optional this time. So if you've got something special that you've made in the last couple of years that you'd love to showcase but not sell, that's fine. 100 centimetres in maximum dimension. Entries open now, close 15th of July, same as the 30-30. And we will then go straight into the jurying process, which takes a little while. And then we'll notify you by email whether you're successful or unsuccessful on the 26th of August. And don't take unsuccessful as not being a success as an artwork. It just means that for this curation of this exhibition with this theme, it's not the right work. It may be a mosaic that will be great for another show. So just keep that in mind. It's not not a success. So I'm just going to stop sharing and open up the chat to the chat. So has anyone got any questions for me about the exhibition? And then I thought, we've got a lot of great mosaic minds here. We could just, open up the chat to what sort of comes to mind for everyone else with the words fragments, the words flow, and the words fragments and flow. And if you just want to put it in the chat, then we can, read them out and just do a little bit of cross-pollinating of ideas. Or if you want to come off mute and talk about something that you're making, or talk about an idea, or question something that I've said that didn't make sense, or add in something that feel free.
Okay.
Marion.
I've got something, Barb, question.
Yeah.
With the theme, do you need to include both fragments and flow in the one piece? Or can you do a piece just based on fragments, or just based on flow?
You could, yeah.
It doesn't have to have both elements in it then?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Marion. You're on mute, Marion.
No questions, but just to say thank you very much. That was incredibly useful.
Good.
And I think will generate a good discussion with people. And just to say that although I know you can only have one entry this year in the international exhibition, I have decided because I'm actually making two, and then I'm going to choose. So that's
Cool.
just that's just one thing that works for me.
Yes, added degree of difficulty. Excellent.
Oh yeah, well.
Can I just throw something in there, Barb?
Sure.
If people do what Marion is doing, they're very welcome to then enter the other piece into the Essay Mosaics exhibition, which is not MAANZ and is open until the 1st of August.
Exactly. And
so that's
also,
just a little side throw.
And the same applies to, this is why I'm saying, why I really wanted to say, if something's unsuccessful, getting it juried in does not make it mean that it's not a successful mosaic in other aspects and might be well suited to another MAANZ show. So, there'll be other state exhibitions, especially, where they can be entered. Yeah.
Marion. Can I just say two more quick things, and then I will shut up. One is that if you're not entering because you're worried about rejection, well, you'll definitely get rejected if you don't enter. So that was one thing. And the other thing is I know other people have had the same experience. I, in the past, have had pieces rejected from one juried show that went on to win Best in Show in another juried show. So it really can be a question of fit.
That's right. The right work for the right theme, for the right time, for the right show. That's exactly right.
And it's hard not to take it personally. It really is. But, I think we need to pull up our big girl pants, speaking personally, and, be prepared to be rejected. It's not personal.
Yeah, totally, totally. Are there any other questions about the exhibition or about the presentation? Because then I'll throw it open. It's 5:30. We don't have to hang around too long. But, if people just want to throw in the chat, put yourself out there. Fragments, flow, fragments and flow. I actually quite like having words when I'm trying to think up ideas. So let's start with fragments. What comes to mind? Just put any word in there, and we can just read them out and just mull them over.
Rocks.
Rocks. Emotions I've got from Jackie. Yeah, emotions is a good one. Some of the pieces being more than the whole. Yes. Falling tree leaves. Lovely. Immigration. I'm a family historian. Yep. Irregular shapes. Yep. Broken bones. Nice. Yep. Explosions. Yep. Lovely. So that's a lot, and I just write that stuff down. I'm a big fan of free writing, and I might choose one of those words, and then just put the clock on, the timer on, and just write for 10 minutes on that word, whatever comes to mind, without thinking. Just whatever comes through flowing. It doesn't have to be proper sentences. I don't know if you've never done free writing, it's a great thing to try to unlock your creativity. A fragment can be big. It can. Interesting concept. A fragment can be big.
Barb, can you see that one?
We've come up with this issue before. It can, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one.
We haven't the space this time either, I think.
Yeah, it's a space issue. It's sort of uniformity of making the show look good on the wall. The galleries don't always want it, but we'll certainly have more copies in response to last time. More copies of the artist statements in a catalogue, so people can pick those up and read them. So what about flow? Let's move on to flow. Just pour them out, the words for flow. Water, yeah, that's the first one that comes to mind for me too. River, water, flow of energy, nice, yeah. Bark, yep. Flow interrupted, yeah. It's almost, that's fragmenting of the flow in that sense, isn't it? Lava, yep. Harmony, lovely, yep. Clouds, sky, sunset, yeah. Light flows, yeah. Lovely. Community, yeah. They're all really great. And that'd all be really great free writing prompts as well. Color gradation, flow of color, yeah, for sure. Going somewhere, yeah. Yep. And then fragments and flow. So that kind of they're opposites in a way. I don't know. Does anyone have any kind of ideas about the collision between those two, maybe? It's harder. Grading from small to large. Yep. Light and dark. Yep. Flood debris. Oh, yeah. That's a real visual, isn't it? Flood debris yeah. Fragments from the flow of water just kind of spread out. That's great. Fragments interrupted by flow. Yeah. Yep. Immigration again, especially from the 19th century where migration was by boat. Yeah. Yep. Interesting. Picasso-like. Yep. Volcanoes. Yeah. So first the lava and then the exploding, I guess. Yeah. Yep. Super. Yeah. Petering out, I think. So that's great. So we're going to keep it really short and sweet. It's Sunday afternoon. So look, I hope you got something. Oh, Marian's got something, a question. You're on mute.
So this is very slightly off, but it's just to reinforce something you said earlier, Barb, about photographs.
Yep.
I have been a juror quite a lot, as well as entering lots of these things. And I cannot stress enough how important it is to have a decent photo. And if you can't do it yourself, bribe, cook a meal, give them a bottle of wine, get somebody else, pay them, get somebody else to do it for you. As a juror, you might be looking at 100 entries with 3 photos each, and you're looking at it on a computer screen. You're not usually looking at it live. If you cannot see enough information to make a judgment, that piece falls at the first hurdle. And again, it's nothing personal. If you haven't got the information to make the decision, you cannot make the decision. So if it says you can have 3 photos, give them 3 photos. If it says you can have a video, give people the video. And also importantly, follow the instructions for the photograph and upload ones that fit the instruction. Because if you've got extraneous information, if you've got literally, and I'm not joking, if you've got somebody standing outside in the garden holding a piece on their chair with their kind of cat sitting on the chair, and I've seen, this is not a joke, I've seen a photo like this given in, it's very unlikely to pass because it's too distracting and you're not going to have enough information. And I think it's really distressing. I find it distressing as a juror when people do this, because I know from personal experience that people have put months of work and money and time and emotion into making it. And then sometimes, for whatever reason, they spend 20 seconds taking the photo. So, if you possibly can, don't let yourself down by doing this. That's just my plea to people, as somebody who is also a juror as well as an enterer.
And in answer to your question, Robin, yes, videos, and you can upload them at the time you do your entry form to the website, which is great. So we've got a great handout on the website about taking photos and the kind of resolution size, the pixels that we're after.
Read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all really important. I got to say, people were pretty good for the Geelong entries. That was that by and large, people did really well. We had some, yeah. So yeah, I think that's
about it. Yeah, Bob, I'm conscious of the.
Can I just ask a quick mechanics question about because Geelong, it was easy to get all our work to you, and you took it to Geelong. When we send it all up to Brisbane, how do people usually do that?
So you either Australia Post or Pack and Send. Just be aware that there's kind of a limit to how much you can insure things through Australia Post. Yeah, and then you'll be sending it to. So when you're notified of a successful international entry, or for the 3030, we'll give you information of the address.
I see. Okay.
All
right, where it goes and all. Yeah. Okay.
I haven't worked out who the team is quite yet.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
And then the locals can drop it off at the gallery if they want to.
I see. Okay.
There'll be a team of Brizzy people, hopefully, yet to be determined. If anyone lives in Brisbane, get in touch with me.
All right, that's good. Thanks.
Yeah, we'll let you know. Good.
Beautiful.
All right. Well, thanks for coming along, everyone. It's only worth it if there's people, tuning in. So thanks for tuning in. It was really great to share some mosaic love, and I can't wait to see you all in person at the symposium. It's going to be really cool. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Barb.
No worries. Thanks. See you. Bye.
Thank you. I'll stop the recording.